Hello and welcome back to AvPlan EFB. This is part 5, which is intermediate flight planning. In this webinar, we're going to take a look at adding and editing and deleting user waypoints. We're going to take a look at flying a beam. We're going to look at alternates and setting up a delay. And we'll also take a look at obstacles and terrain. So let's get started with user waypoints. So as you can see over here, I've added a very basic flight plan to get us started. Now let's say we're flying from Camden to Shell Harbour and we want to go and visit a friend here just to the north of Shell Harbour. So first of all, I'm just going to widen, I beg your pardon, so that we get the full map. And then I'm going to pinch in for a little more detail here. Let's say we have a friend who lives near Mount Kembla and we want to go and visit their house, overfly, perhaps take some photographs. So first, let's tap on the map near where we think our friend lives, and we will get up a database of our previous user waypoints, and we can of course search by user waypoints here. As you can see, I've made quite a few waypoints around this area. This is fairly near where I live, but for the purposes of today's demonstration, we're going to add a new user waypoint. So we'll pop that in there and it will plot the waypoint where you tapped, and now we need to customize it. So first we need to change its name, and we need to put it in its exact position. So by tapping on the waypoint with your finger, you'll bring up the waypoint detail box, and in the top right hand corner you'll see an edit button. Tap that edit button and that will bring you a detailed box there pertaining to your waypoint. So firstly, let's name it by overwriting it here. I'm going to call it Go Fly and press return, and that will change it on the map to Go Fly. Now, if you know the exact lat long, you can put the lat long in and the altitude. We've done your magnetic variation for you, and here's your area forecast for that area there. You can search by street address or known location, magnetic bearing or distance from. Also, you can edit via Google Maps. So as you can see there, I've landed us in the trees. We don't want to land in the trees, so by pressing and holding the pin with my finger, I can drag that pin to this area here where I want to land specifically, and that will move the waypoint to the exact area on the map there. By tapping on the map, you'll see here's our waypoint, Go Fly, and also by opening up our navlog, you'll see the waypoint here in our navlog. Now let's say, for instance, we want to go Bankstown, Camden, Go Fly, Shell Harbour. We can edit that by popping down the bottom here to our edit button and picking up Go Fly with our finger by pressing on these grey lines, moving it above Shell Harbour there. By pressing the edit button again, that will amend it on the map. You can see now we're going Camden, Go Fly, Shell Harbour there. And here's our waypoint, Go Fly. Now to see that waypoint in our database, if you want to use it again, want to make any changes to the waypoint, go to planning, go to planning and go to user waypoints in planning there. Scroll down until you see your waypoint in alphabetical order there, Go Fly. And tap on the waypoint. You can make more amendments here, and this gives you a larger Google Maps snapshot there too. So if you find it's easier, you can edit here in the user waypoint directory. Also, if you go back to the directory, you'll see you have an add. So you can add your waypoint here. If you know the exact lat long, you can just add it here. You can edit it here too. So if you want to take a user waypoint away, simply press on the delete button and it will delete it. Or you can use the traditional iPad deleting technique of just sliding your finger from right to left. If you scroll down to the bottom of the waypoint directory, you'll see you can email your user waypoints here. You can send them to other apps and you can delete them at the bottom there. So if you want to do any major editing to any of your waypoints, come into your user waypoint directory, which you'll find in planning, user waypoints here. Now let's go back to the map and we'll take a look at fly a beam. Say for instance, you're leaving Camden and you're on a flight review or an instructional flight, and your instructor may try and push you through this danger area here. This is Wilton, which is a drop zone. Wilton, rather, which is a drop zone. You can make sure that you don't fly into that drop zone by setting up a beam checkpoint. So first things first, you need to add Wilton to your navlog. So pick up the line and rubber band it over to Wilton, pull it down, and it will say, where do you want to add? So let's add Wilton to our navlog here. By rubber banding, it's put Wilton, our waypoint, exactly where we want it, rather than adding it to the bottom and having us edit. So we've got Wilton here now. So let's go over to the navlog and press with our finger just under where it says Wilton to bring this drop down menu. And this is where you can also land, add legs. You can do a direct to, although we do have a direct to button up here as well. You can do a direct to here. You can activate that leg and make it live, or you can do as we're going to do now, press pass a beam. Pass a beam will then put you a beam Wilton. We'll make it there as a point, but instead of landing in Wilton, it clearly says you're passing a beam, and when you file your flight plan later, that will be noted to ATC. So there we are, we've got a beam Wilton there. Next up, we're going to add a delay. So let's put our delay in Camden. Let's say, for instance, we wanted to do a little air work at Camden. The easiest way to add a delay is to go over to the terminal page and add it. So let's do that right away by tapping on Camden and opening the terminal page here. Let's pop to leg details and pop our delay in here. So a 4-figure format. So let's say we want to delay for 15 minutes at Camden. 0015 pops that in there. That's a 15-minute delay. And we'll just put air work there. And now you'll see that reflected over here in our navlog. Let's put in our ETD, and that will bring our calculations up all the way through. So we can see UTC is 0125. We only need to put in a 4-figure group if we're going today. So let's put 0225 here. It'll automatically turn it into a 6-figure group. And now that's pulled all our times across, and it's brought up our weather, our winds, etc. Now, if you want to make any additions or amendments to your navlog, again with the edit button, you can change your TAS and you can change your wind here. When you press the edit button, we give you more functions to edit, more panes to edit here. Back off the edit button. There we are. So if you don't like the winds we've given you and you've got better winds, go ahead and add those right here. Okay, so we've added our delay. Let's go back to the en route. And now let's add an alternate. So let's say, for instance, we're required to have an alternate. We choose to have an alternate. Let's pick Mittagong as our alternate. Simply tap on the alternate you require. Here's Mittagong. By tapping on it, you're going to pull up your nearest items page. Don't add Mittagong, but tap on the line Mittagong here, and that will open your nearest items, your waypoint page. If you tap on it precisely, this page will open up first. I must have just slightly tapped off center there. And this is the airport page, which has all the details about your airport here. We've got our nearby TAFs and everything, and I showed you those in a previous webinar. But what I didn't show you is if you scroll down all the way to the end, you can add your alternate here. So press on that. That pops your alternate here in grey. So you're not going to fly that alternate, but if you choose to fly it, you can bring it live when you're in fly mode and you're flying along. You can just tap it to make it live there, and that will activate and you can also do a direct to that alternate from anywhere should you choose to go before you hit Shell Harbour at the bottom here. So here's your alternate. To delete your alternate, if you choose not to have an alternate, tap on it again and press the delete button there, or you can simply delete it from the navlog by sliding your finger to bring up the delete button there. So that's now added our alternate. And as you'll see now, when we go over into weight and balance, our fuel calculations will have changed. So let's take a look at those now. Aircraft loading, weight and balance, fuel planning. You'll see that these have all been added to our, let's do a weight and balance as well, so that we can get some actual figures in here. Just pop in some random figures just to draw it up. There we go. It's as simple as that, as we talked about in previous webinars. And there's our weight and balance. There's our takeoff and landing weights and our zero fuel weight there. And here are our fuel calculations. You can see we've added the alternate. The delay has been added to the cruise time. And we can add our holding, our approach. And as I told you in a previous webinar, I've got a default taxi set up here. And you can add that default taxi over here by clicking on your aircraft type. Call sign, oops, sorry, and pressing the I here, which allows you to amend the basic details in here. And that's where you can add your variable reserve if you want. And down at the very bottom, you have your options for defaults there. And that's where I've set my default taxi and also my default person. I like to fly alone, so I've defaulted to just me, even though in my weight and balance, I put 2 people just for demonstration purposes. So everything that you do here, as I mentioned before, is reflected here. So let's give our plan some altitude by taking a look at our altitude optimizer. And let's say we want to go at 4,500. By tapping 4,500, that will populate all of the navlog with 4,500. If you just want to populate one zone, pop it over to fly. Go ahead and change. So we want Camden at 2,500, controlled airspace class D there. So let's pop that into 2,500, but the rest will stay 4,500. Don't forget to pop back into plan mode here. If you do it in plan mode, whatever you put in the top will auto populate all the way to the bottom. Go back to our en route now. Let's take a look at some terrain and obstacles. So our terrain and obstacle database is contingent on us having a flight plan in and an altitude in our flight plan. So let's pop the terrain overlay on now. And that will give us, as you can see here now, the terrain, red being lowest, I think that's 500 feet, and yellow 1,000. So that obviously will change where if you change your altitude here. If you're in fly mode, then this will be dependent on your GPS. So your GPS is reading that you're on the ground at the moment, so everything is red. But once you're in fly mode, it will take your reading off your GPS. And the same goes for your obstacle database, which you can also find up here in en route settings. Tap obstacles, and that will give you your obstacles for the area. See if we have any here. They'll usually start flashing on the map. We can't find anything specifically. Perhaps if I come a little lower. We'll find something there. Let's have a look at Camden at 1,500. See if we can see any obstacles there. See, that's now significantly changed. It will in a minute when the lag catches up. Will significantly change our terrain once we alter the altitude to 1,500. You'll see here, I can't see any actual obstacles to show you. Must be in a low obstacle area. Anyway, to switch those off, pop obstacles off, pop terrain overlay off there, and that will switch them off. If you accidentally find that your map is all red, you have probably inadvertently hit the terrain database. I do get that question on the help desk once in a while. Why is my terrain all red? So now you know. So we've taken a look at alternates, we've taken a look at user waypoints and flyer beam. Let's see those now reflected in our flight plan. So let's go down to planning and down to submit ICAO flight plan via NAIPS. And you'll see in our interactive flight plan that everything that we've done here is of course reflected over here. So we can see as we scroll down, here's our route. So we're going from Bankstown direct to Camden. Oops, sorry, bring that back up again for you. Camden. There's our waypoint. Now, of course, it's converted it from, there's our flyer beam Wilton, rather. So that's Wilton's coordinates and the beam code there. And here is our user waypoint, which has been converted back to lat long, because GoFly doesn't mean anything to ATC, so we've converted it back to lat long. I've put our initial altitude at 1,500, but if we want to change that, we can simply tap here on the interactive flight plan and change it back to 2,500. 1,500 is going to be a little low there, although we didn't see any obstacles. There's our initial TAS, which I've told you can change over here as well. Our en route time, our endurance, we can also change here if we want to. We can put more fuel in the tanks. If we fill up at the Bowser, we wanted to put in 300, but we put in 320. We can change that right here by tapping on. And that will amend our endurance here. Here's our remarks that'll go over to ATC, that we're going to do some air work at Camden, and under other details, they put our delay in there. And tapping on that, you can change it here if you want to as well. So that'll bring up your other details. And if you have anything else you want to add in there, if you're a special flight, you can put that in there. Special handling also has its own category here. And if you come under any of these, you can tap these if you're a medevac, etc. Destination is in here, and so is our alternate, Mittagong. And everything else is as it should be. So all we need to do is add a SAR time. Now we know what time we're going to land. So if we tap SAR time, AvPlan's going to work out that our SAR time should be 1 hour after we land. So it's made a suggested SAR time of 0406. If you don't want that, of course, you can scroll away and choose your own. You can also see that in local time by pressing the local time button here. So that's 6 minutes past 3 this afternoon, local time. It'll always default to UTC because that's what Air Services requires. So there you are. So we've popped it into UTC now. Let's press no send, which allows us to send the flight plan, but just to the first stage. Press submit. That will pop our flight plan in over to Air Services. And if there are any problems with that flight plan, which there aren't, thankfully, those will be shown here. So if there is a problem, it'll be written across here, and you can decode that on our website in our FAQs, or you can just contact me. You hear that dinging sound? That's my NAIPS confirmation of flight plan there. So even though I've submitted a no send and it's not considered a filed flight plan, it still has been sent to NAIPS, but instead of my call sign, you'll see the word no send there, so they know I'm only practicing. If you file a real plan, you'll see filed in green here, so you know your flight plan is filed. You can cancel your flight plan in AvPlan 2 by deleting it, and it's like you were never there. You can amend your SAR time in our SAR time directory, pop on the SAR time you'd like to amend, and either cancel it or overwrite, pop in your new SAR time here. Okay, so that's a short look at intermediate flight planning, including alternates, waypoints, flying a beam, and setting up a delay. Thanks for your time. We'll see you on the next webinar, Advanced Planning.